And I just want to give a quick summary of everything that we learned from our speakers. Well, not everything, quick summary of what we learned from our speakers today. So we started off building from a small scale system that could be in your house, solar power from Andrew Leach explained to us the economics of this, and also how we can get a little bit nerdier through installing solar panels. We built up to a larger system and understanding a life cycle of the oil sands, starting from the important role that oil sands have played in different communities over time, how it impacts our life, and how we have important ethical considerations when we look at these large-scale systems. Pierre gave us a very interesting overview on different conflicting perspectives. He called it seemingly simple, but actually complex, understanding how there's so many different things that can go into a single engineering technology and the different narratives and desires of different communities. And then Evan was showing us how we can put all of this into a computer model and consider what might happen in the future and which impacts in the system can play out in different ways. So thinking about that, we invite you to put any more questions you might have to the panel into the chat. And we're now going to go into our panel discussion. We need to work together as a group. There's a collective interest here. But how do we get everyone on the same page? What are the kinds of incentives that you can use maybe to get this collaborative effort to address grand challenge problems? So I don't know if someone wants to volunteer, maybe Jessica, if you'd like to answer that.
Sure, yeah, for sure, definitely. Working with different diverse perspectives is always an art sometimes in terms of approach. Everyone has a different communication style. Everyone's coming with a different amount of unconscious bias. Folks are coming from different lived experiences that they bring to the table, and there's huge value in that. But at times, sometimes there is frustration as well, trying to convey what your perspective is and the reasoning behind it. And so taking the time to really think through, I like Evan's approach that he mentioned around really drawing those boundaries, drawing those assumptions, using the same language, building a very safe ethical environment so people are free to bring up their ideas, as well as speak from a place where it is really active listening. And this is so important. I know the elders teach us a lot about the humility teaching, about really those circles, sharing circle type style meetings, where we can create that space so people can share their ideas. They're not, and rather than being criticized or being dismissed right away, that thought be put into those ideas, whether they have pieces that are feasible, that fit, that we can all bring it all together. Of course, we always have to balance that against the needs that we're working in this world against, things like time, money, cost, resources, all of that, and finding the right balance there so that we can build those really safe, respectful environments.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And that makes me think of Pierre's presentation as he was showing us how this is working together in the Kananaskis Valley. I wonder, Pierre, if you can talk about how you saw in that system, and then maybe in different scenarios, how you can see those perspectives come together.
Yeah, so Kananaskis Valley is it's a microcosm, right? So it seemed like it's a small energy generation facility. From the outside, like, you know, if you're far away, it looks like a great idea to create electricity, right? And I just showed you, this thing is only used 36% of the year, like really to generate electricity. And a lot of this is like, you know, not even produced at the right time where it would make most sense, right? So, but if you actually live there and you make, you know, for example, the tour operators make their living with that river, right? Or if you are interested in the environmental protection of this area. So I always circle back to the same kind of, I think the discourse is the most important part of this thing. So we can only model what we understand and what impact it has. And another challenge is like sometimes putting value on, like putting, like, you know, all these models, and Evan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but all of these models need numbers. So how do you measure like the healthiness of the upper Kananaskis Lake in terms of the fish habitat? What dollar value do you put on that or so, right? How do you measure that? Another interesting thing, I had a couple of years ago, I gave a talk in Lethbridge on energy storage, and I brought up like the comment that, you know, it's a great area down there for wind energy, right? And so I thought, like, you know, that went over like a lead balloon. I had people in the group in the audience that were from the I think it's like the Prairie Grassland Protection Group or so. And they're like, no, we don't like wind turbines here because it does definitely interrupt the natural landscape kind of thing, right? So putting up those wind turbines. And I don't live there. I don't have to live with the wind turbines. I don't see them, right? So, and I'm originally from Germany, and I know how now people in like Germany is like, you know, always seen as this like the great place for generating wind power because there are wind turbines everywhere. But there's a lot of backlash in society about, like, you know, people don't like them to be at certain places, right? There's environmental groups who actually are against wind power in the North Sea, right? Because it interferes with bird migration and other things. So it is the discourse and gathering information, finding ways of actually quantifying the impact that certain decisions have is a real challenge. And I think there's lots that we still have to do a lot of things on that because not everything can be expressed in, you know, gigawatt or dollars, right? So it's and so yeah, I think this is a difficult decision to make, and I don't have a solution. I'm actually part of this group to learn. That's kind of like my main part here.
Evan, please go ahead.
Yeah, in answer to what Pierre was saying, obviously that's a real problem with simulation models and with science in general, which is that we often try to refine what we already know rather than trying to explore brand new things. There are different approaches you can take to include some of the qualitative aspects. A methodology that I use in my own research is called system dynamics modeling, which allows you to do some more qualitative work than you can do with a lot of simulation modeling. That said, it's not perfect, and it's very hard to quantify some aspects like human health, for example, or environmental health. And so that brings me to the last point, I suppose, which is that typically simulation models, optimization models, and so on aren't used to make the decisions. What they're used for is to inform the decisions. And so you have to be very careful when you use any model that you don't use it as an oracle. It's not the answer, it's not divine. What it can do is give you a more informed analysis, a more informed understanding of what the problem is and what the repercussions are of different courses of action. So you have to be very careful. That's one of the things I stress to my students is don't think that the model is telling you the answer. What it's doing is giving you information that you can take into account as you make your own decisions.
Yeah, that's a really important point. And also with what Jessica was telling us about, you know, when we're bringing in more people and more diverse perspectives, sometimes that needs to also shift the way of thinking that we've had in the past so we can encompass what is also very important and has been missed.